If you listen to my About Me audio, you know I spent a long time living on the streets. It started after I broke my leg twice and spent 32 weeks in bed healing. Being afraid to break it a third time by going back to work, I lived in an abandoned house for a while and walked every day to get as strong again. One thing led to another where, before I knew it, I adopted to homelessness and even began to like it. But that isn't the point I'm trying to make here. I learned to walk everywhere, all over the county, all the time, every day, morning, noon, and night. I've always been a thinker, and the two seem to fit together perfectly. Since I didn't have any other form of media entertainment but my brain, it seemed to think in overdrive. During the night, I owned the streets. I could walk wherever I wanted with no one being out but me. Then morning came with tens of thousands of cars along with their pollution while being driven by people who, for the most part, didn't look as happy as I was to be on the same road as them, or not at least on the days of the work week. Of course, since I had chosen a more happy-go-lucky lifestyle, while they were stuck in traffic on the way to work so they could afford to pay their bills, I could understand why smiles were few and far between. So during the day, I often walked along trails I discovered more of the longer I lived that way in order to avoid the mess that was made by rush-hour travelers during the work week. So one day I was walking from somewhere in Falls Church heading towards Annandale using the woods along the Beltway to stay clear of morning rush hour traffic when I hit Route 50 and wound up walking a few miles off my intended course because there just didn't seem to be a break in the traffic that would allow me to cross over. It wasn't until that night when the roads were silent again as I walked through a parking lot of an office building where there were motion sensors on the parking lot lights. That's when the epiphany came. Excited by the prospect of my new inspiration for traffic-free highways, I turned around quickly to see if my assumption had been correct. Sure enough, the lights in the office building were on even though there was no one in there. That's the way it was everywhere I went. The highways and the buildings were lit up in the middle of the night, even the empty parking lots. When the work week was first designed, we didn't have the security of an electrically lit society whose citizens could clearly see where they were going morning, noon, or night. So everyone had to wait till the sun came up to go to work. Then they had to rush home before the sun went down or be stranded at work, unless they were willing to risk being confronted by bandits or having the kinds of accidents that happen when there's no light to see with. Of course, back then, population densities were much lower, so darkness at night followed by sunshine during the day set the stage for an endearing lifestyle, with the challenges of the workplace during the day followed by the comfort and security of being at home at night. These days, however, there's nothing endearing or comforting about that trip to work and then home again, where countless precious hours are wasted sitting one behind the other, breathing each other's exhaust fume, wishing your job paid enough to afford all the things you want from life. If you spend just an hour each day you work in traffic, you're spending around 6 weeks worth of work week hours in traffic a year. That's 3 2-week pay period paychecks you put the time in but never got paid for. Precious time you could have been spending elsewhere, like playing your favorite sports, spending time with family, on a hobby, dating, bar hopping, or taking in a movie, dinner, or a show. It's time taken away from the few hours of the workday that you get that's yours, which collectively amounts to millions upon millions of man-hours when talking about the cost to the whole community. So if there's a way to lessen or eliminate travel time to and from work without costing quality of products and services that employment is supposed to produce, then it must be looked at. Here in the 11th District of Virginia, there isn't a political race that goes by where the issue of traffic isn't at the top of the list of priorities on voters' minds. But the problems never really seem to get any better. If we build better roads, more homes are allowed to be built to fill them back up with more traffic congestion. It's a never-ending battle that, in my opinion, most local professional politicians don't want to end because their resume is strongest when it comes to getting new highways built or taking credit for ones that will be built anyway. If I was one of your run-of-the-mill Northern Virginia politicians, I would look at where the worst traffic problems are in the district I'm running for office in, then market some kind of highway change to the people who would be the most upset about the current conditions. But then if that actually worked to solve traffic headaches here, there wouldn't be any. Since I don't have any experience from getting highways built or taking big donations from companies that build highways or homes or shopping centers or office buildings. I have to come up with something different to address this issue. So here it is. Something so simple you'll wonder why you never thought of it, unless you did. I know why I thought of it, because I was out walking one work week night where the highways went from being my domain to being overrun by cars like they were wildebeest migrating across the Serengeti. See, we have lights now. They're on our vehicles, on the streets we drive down, in the empty parking lots in the middle of the night, and in the businesses we work at, many being turned on even when they're not there, while when the sun rises, the light afforded by the windows doesn't mean we don't need lights anymore. Everywhere we go, there are lights. And we can make it dark inside our homes during the day by turning out the lights and pulling the blinds and curtains shut in our bedrooms. So sleeping during the day is possible in this new age of modern technology. Now, when it comes to work done outside, we still have to wait till the sun comes up, for the most part anyway. But for the bulk of workers who strand themselves in traffic 5 days a week while hating life as it passes them by for all these unpaid hours a year, they work in offices where the time of day or night they have to be there is not always relative to what part of the Earth's cycle it happens to be in with regard to the sun. So there it is, the cure to your traffic problems without building new highways that are only going to attract more growth followed by more traffic congestion. As for how to manage this kind of change after thousands of years of human beings waiting till the sun comes up to go to work, then rushing home before it goes down again, I have many ideas, some that are better than others. And I'm sure I won't be the only one with them if these kinds of solutions were on the table. Like in California, where a company allows its employees to make their own schedules without overseeing when they come to work and when they don't. They have assigned responsibilities that they have to accomplish. If their job gets done, they get paid. Other than that, no one is looking over their shoulder. Believe it or not, they claim productivity has gone up significantly since they decided to cut loose the reins they previously held over their workers. Think about it for a second. If you had an employer that let you come and go as you please as long as you did your job, what would you be willing to do in order to not give them an excuse to replace you with someone else who would be more appreciative of that kind of employer by simply getting done what's expected of them? In that kind of environment with no pressure excuses while the payoffs for performance are high, the possibilities for productive competition and new growth are endless. But it seems a certain aspect of our upper management mindset that hasn't changed much in thousands of years would have to be changed, which is what the California company is doing. By doing so, they're forcing other companies to follow suit or come up with something better if they want to attract new talent from prospective employees who see the light at the end of the tunnel that allows them to travel to and from work when there is little or no traffic, as long as they can figure out a way to get their job done when it needs to be done. If history is a guide, if this works in California, we might see it here in 20 years. But then I have friends in California who are big fans of my progressive way of forward thinking. So maybe we don't always have to be the last one to get things right in this country. Maybe we can actually lead. This is another example of why my candidacy is so important. I'm not talking about getting you to vote for me so I can get elected, then go to Capitol Hill with a mandate to pass laws that require more people work at night while requiring employers to let their employees make their own schedules. I know from watching government work on issues like these that there isn't a problem they try and deal with that they don't then make good solutions disappear altogether because their big money puppet masters don't like it. Either that or they take it seriously and make things worse in the end. And even if by some stroke of good fortune they do get something right now and then, it arrives a decade after it was most needed and winds up costing 10 times more than for us to work out the details ourselves. The question is, how are the ways we handle these kinds of issues now supposed to change when traditionally it's been politicians who deal with them? But then all they know how to do is pass laws to force us to do things we want to get done anyway, which somehow what we wanted to get out of it in the end gets lost in the translation while costing us millions or billions of dollars not getting what we want. What I'm talking about is a whole different kind of leadership, one where power is used to open doors for people to be able to solve their own problems while exposing the kinds of special interest groups who are very good at preventing these kinds of solutions from taking place. I want to provide the kind of leadership where, when my constituency is looking for change that requires cutting across many governmental boundaries to achieve it, I'm there to make sure government lends what it is asked of to the process, not take over the issue and produce something that only serves to pay a lot of bureaucrats a lot of money to screw up what we could have done ourselves more efficiently and cheaper.